We are very excited in the bonus section to offer Mike Rice, the bioarchitect who was in Frequency of Genius. And as you know, his architecture is quite interesting and amazing and cutting edge. And Mike, go ahead and tell everybody your a brief background of how you got into architecture.
Hello, Richard. Thank you for this opportunity, and hello to all the listeners. My name is Michael Rice. Mike Rice is fine, and I'm a bioarchitect living and working in the middle of Ireland, the heartland of Ireland, a mountain range called the Slieve Bloom, which is Gaelic for the Blooming Mountains. I've been practicing bioarchitecture for a little over 20 years, having graduated from the University College in Dublin. I live and work in our home that we're building, my wife and I, Heather and I, called Dreamfield, and 5 wonderful home-educated children. I remember my daughter, when she was 5 years old, she was asked by a family member why she home educates, and she answered, because my parents have a lot to learn. So it was in that spirit that we opened up to new ways of doing things, but certainly they felt new to us, but of course they're very old ways. And that's why we call it bioarchitecture, because it is the architecture of how to create space, structure, and even just life structures that support biology, that support us physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And that has been our passion and our drive and our direct experience over the many years we've been practicing. And again, the word practicing is a bit limiting because it's not like a practice run. We've been doing this and enjoying it for many years, and it is our desire to continue to practice, but also to continue to share. And so in that light, the bioarchitecture has been piggybacked a little bit in a new company called Building Dreams, which is on one level in its infancy, but it will be leveraging the technology of bioarchitecture into a vehicle, as it were, to help people become more aware of what bioarchitecture is and how it can apply to your life, how we can practice it, how we can engage with communities and new structures that are coming into place, especially at this very remarkable time in the history of humanity. And so we feel that bioarchitecture, again to use that word, is a vehicle for very positive change and can support people to create an anchoring environment for their dreams, their passions, their hopes, and for the future.
Question, as you know, Jonathan Quinton was in the documentary who was commenting about your architecture and your designs, and we noticed that they're organic, they flow with nature. And could you please give us insight into the sacred geometry aspect of your architecture and how it relates to architecture?
Absolutely. I don't know if you've ever heard this expression that architecture is frozen music. I think it may have been the German philosopher Goethe who first mentioned it or first said it, but it's a beautiful expression that goes to the very heart of the implications of practicing sacred geometry in the context of architecture. So frozen music, that everything in the universe is energy. And that energy expresses itself as waves. And when those waves come together to meet, they come together in certain patterns that create constructive interference. In other words, if they come together in a certain pattern that creates destruction, they don't get to live, they don't get to evolve. If they come together in certain patterns constructively, they create beautiful new symmetries that give rise to multiple layers of interrelationships, which we call life, which we call consciousness. So nature realized very early on that waves must come together in certain patterns, shapes, proportions, ratios, and to do so ran the opportunity of creating living structures. That's why we see the same shapes at work at every level of creation. The same patterns emerge like Russian dolls, embedded and nested one inside the next, So the same patterns we see at the subatomic level, acting out at the most fundamental level of creation and reality, are the same patterns we see as a child emerges in utero, as a galaxy just moves majestically and turns on its axis. And the same patterns we see in the human heart during compassion, or the human mind during a peak moment of ecstasy or inspiration. So when we use these patterns to create spaces, we literally create enclosures or envelopes or are just forms that are literally filled with life force, filled with capacitive charge. And in those spaces, we thrive, our biology tingles, we come alive in ways that we've never experienced before. We get inspired, we get creative, we become actually more loving, we become less likely to respond to preformed patterns of behavior that are no longer supporting us. And that may sound quite lofty and a little bit disjointed maybe, or a little bit unbelievable to some, but that is our direct experience. I've been involved with the direct design and construction of perhaps 400 or 500 buildings at this stage, and the feedback is tremendous. The feedback from people who respond so positively to living and working in these spaces. I mean, just a quick example would be people who were told medically couldn't give birth or conceive, all did so very successfully to wonderful and indeed follow on multiple children. People who were in stage 4 cancer went into full remission. Many couples who were experiencing difficulties in their relationships, both with themselves and each other and with family, all discovered remarkable resolve and opportunity for releasing and relaxing those patterns into a new paradigm, a new way of being that's much more conducive to passion and to possibility and potential. And of course, people with minor medical ailments, from eczema and asthma to sensitivity, environmental sensitivities, they all found great relief in these spaces. On a more commercial level, many of these buildings, people report actually coming back to work for free on the weekends and late in evenings, just because they love the building so much. I mean, can you imagine a space where the absenteeism is close to zero, but you're actually getting negative absenteeism where people actually turn up on their own time to just be there? So the implications are huge. What a wonderful, anchor for us, not just to live and work in, but can you imagine a bioarchitecture sacred space for us to give birth and also to die and give birth successfully? The coming in and the going out, what that might mean for what we get to do on the planet in the times between. So the sacred geometry, as an expression, it works. Sacred does have that sort of deep feeling of spirituality and sustainability, but it does also have a little bit of baggage because people can sometimes imagine it has something to do with temples or religious structures. But sacred really means sustainable. A sacred environment is an environment where the waves can come together sustainably and survive and thrive. Surviving and thriving of waves means sustainable. And geometry, coming from the Greek geometros, meaning the measurement of the earth, geometry means patterns, shapes, forms, ratios, symmetries, etc. So literally sacred geometry, when applied to bioarchitecture, would give us the blueprint of nature, which anchors us into creating spaces that flow beautifully, are easy to build, structurally very strong, and a delight to live and work in. And so certainly that has been our, as I say, direct experience, and continues to gift us with opportunities for helping not just clients, because that's too linear a relationship, but anybody that comes along. They can totally get this straight away. And what is amazing is that our track record, if this is an appropriate expression, our track record in terms of achieving permit, building permit, planning permission, etc., would be extremely high. And I think that comes down to something activates in officialdom. When they see these drawings and see these shapes and forms, something just tingles their soul, and they respond very, very positively. So certainly bioarchitecture and sacred geometry are hand in glove, or hand in hand, and working together for a greater future.